What's up? Your boy Domuto. We back with another video. Today we're watching Plus. What if the human Z fighters became Saiyans Part 6? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know. I'd be taking way too many. Like I think the last one posted 10 days ago, so I'm taking way too far to post them back to back. I want to post them back to back and closer in time, so we get through the show to the story. But you know that work-life balance, bro. That work-life balance is tough, man. You know what I'm saying? But we'll get into it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and there you go.
Trunks' timeline is still under threat and of a most unlikely foe. As in canon, after the explosive battle with Cell, in which Gohan showcased some strange, inexplicable power, the hope-seeking swordsman returned home and defeated the evil android menace of his timeline, also exterminating his version of Cell in explosive fashion. Armed with knowledge of Babidi and Dabura's impending arrival thanks to the Kais, Trunks would go on to amass a great deal of power training with them. So much so that when the battle came, Trunks here is actually much more prepared for Dabura in terms of pure power, though the stone spit trick is still a surprise sadly, causing the end of the Z-Sword as it is broken into pieces. And because of that power, the anger felt by losing the Kai's treasured relic is actually what pushes Trunks into the Super Saiyan 2 form. This allows him to take on Dabura completely unarmed, and in this timeline, actually save Kibito, though he is a bit banged up by
My fault, trip. It wasn't 10 days ago, it was 4 days ago. Sorry. But anyway.
At the end of it. With their victory that day came a fleeting sense of peace, but a disturbing echo of the past rung out. A foe that should not be. Trunks was able to repel every attack at first, with every encounter seemingly making them stronger, and with casualties mounting, Trunks and Bulma are left with questions. Primarily, is this a distortion they caused by meddling in the past? Bulma has spent the last year attempting to scrounge up just enough fuel to get to the past once. Hopefully, detailed instructions could help her past counterpart make the same discoveries. Trunks attempts to convince his mother to come with him, but she refuses and says that there has to be someone back here to help the remaining survivors. Mai, who had risen up as the commander of the resistance force against their enemy and become a very close friend of Trunks, would promise to protect Bulma, even going along with him and his mother now as they sneak through the streets to a secure location for Trunks to make the trip to the past and for Bulma to join up with the other survivors. Unbeknownst to them, their foe had stalked them from a distance, much like how a predator stalks his unsuspecting prey, readying itself to bite down on the neck. In a bid to buy time, Trunks orders his mother and friend to go ahead and he'll catch up before unsheathing his sword and engaging his enemy wholeheartedly. The Fiend, monikered Black, easily stops his wife for his head with 2 of his fingers, but Trunks simply reversed the grip of his blade and slammed the pommel of it into the mysterious invader's scarred cheek. The small victory Trunks felt from feeling something crunch from his blow fades as a wolfish smile breaks out on the dark villain's face. Then he felt his legs swept out from under him before Black unleashed a hellish axe kick that split the ground and Trunks nearly with it. He then stood over and looked down upon Trunks with contempt, but a burst of rapid gunfire impacting off his scarred face interrupted him. Though it did very little to stagger him, he looked over at the culprit and noticed Bulma wielding one of the machine guns she would have been seen with as a teenager. With a glare, the tool explodes in her hand, and sensing a small key above him, he casually smacks the upturned rubble beside him, and Mai, who had been standing atop it, came tumbling down in front of him as it splintered. He gloats, and Mai surprisingly makes an obscene gesture with one of her fingers. This is when Black would notice that it is adorned with metal pins, and he looks up to see a loaded grenade bandolier hanging from rebar above his head. Mai would then jump onto Trunks to cover his eyes, as loud bangs and harsh flashing lights erupted overhead. By now, Trunks had struggled to fill his lungs with air again, and unleash a chop to the back of Black's knees to relieve the pressure on his stomach. Rolling out of the crater as Black stumbles back a bit and angrily rubs his eyes, damning the girl. As soon as he felt them get free, he began to randomly release ki blasts in every direction thinkable, hoping to swat them down. Trunks would jump on the opportunity and go for broke, rushing forward, grabbing both Mai and his mother, and flying full speed toward their destination. Then to be safe, he dropped them off and made to go even further before cutting his ki and running back on foot, thankfully avoiding Black as he flew overhead tracking his ki signature where it had left off. In the small hangar they hid in, Bulma and Mai had finished fueling the time machine and had just finished the preparation for takeoff when he returned. Currently in a pinch, he does his best to convince them both to accompany him, but they assure him that they will be okay and rush him to go ASAP, because the quicker they can refuel and come back, the better their chances are. Reluctantly, Trunks boards the vehicle and starts the takeoff sequence. The roof of the hangar opens quietly, and the time machine only rises a bit to allow Trunks a chance to check around and see the area is clear of Black. Sighing in relief, he starts the time travel part of the flight sequence and turns to wave to his mom and friend. At that moment, the hangar wall is obliterated, and Black walks in. Taking the time to make eye contact with him, a sadistic smile stretches across his face. Tears filled his eyes, but before he could let out a cry, he's whisked to the past and rendered unconscious due to the stress, fear, and exhaustion. Meanwhile, in the timeline we're used to, Trunks and the children of the Pilaf gang, who he is tutored alongside, are conducting a class, and just about to break for the day to allow Goten and the daughters of the other Z-Fighters to come over. On Beerus' planet, Goku and Vegeta indulge in sparring, while the deities relax and snack. And back on Earth in Wet City, the rest of the Z-Fighters go about their usual daily lives, or what counts as usual for them. That is, until a strange vehicle arrives to Capsule Corp. Not recognizing it, Trunks would inform his mother, who definitely does, and like in the anime's canon, she would go on to call into Vegeta and tell him to return with Goku, who has Trunks power up so that he can instant transmission all 4 of them to Capsule Corp. There, Vegeta and Goku help Trunks out of the machine and soon get him a sensu bean for his wounds. He awakens in a bed dazed, trying to recall the immediate events. Glimpses of their trek through the city, his fight with Black, then escaping, and finally his mind settles on a grim scene. The moment Black broke into the hangar and made eye contact with him. That image searing itself into his psyche. Present Bulma then walks in to wake her son and is met with a tearful hug not unlike of a frightened child. Bulma holds her boy quietly, knowing that his life is not an easy one, and the two just sit there for a long time. The outburst had calmed Trunks somewhat, leaving him feeling better and not having to hold back all that anger and sadness. Now feeling more in the present and grounded, Trunks stands and follows his mother out of the room and back to his mission. The other Z-Fighters would arrive at Capsule Corp, Krillin having gotten off of work and arriving with the likes of Marin and actually Goten.
Boy,
after his fight with Frieza, the kid had actually approached him.
Let me get this clip. Hell no. What the fuck is this? Why you? Nigga, what's some aura? This is an aura-ass picture from Krillin, bro. What the fuck is this?
Him to ask Krillin to become his martial arts teacher. A request which had really thrown him for a loop, considering whose child this was. But this is more of a story for another day. Piccolo would also arrive, being very surprised to see Trunks back, and with them present, he begins his explanation of the situation. He regales him on his battle with the forces of Babidi, and explains the new foe arrived and they had no idea how, but it was a man that looks just like Yamcha, even bearing his scars. But he somehow possesses Saiyan traits that only the Yamcha from the present timeline should have. Beerus and Whis, now intrigued, speculate about how all this could be possible. They don't think Yamcha of all people is capable of such acts, but they also tout that this is the danger of messing with time. That sparks the questions of Yamcha's current alibi, which is conveniently answered when Yamcha's first child, Kurizu, arrives and mentions that Yamcha was with Mr. Satan, her mother, and her little brother, Cheetah. However, everyone's pondering is interrupted as temporal energy condensed and rippled above them. A dark and powerful key launched through and opened time, and there stood Yamcha Black with a sneer. No one could believe it. He himself was surprised by all the people. As everyone is confused, Goku racks his brain trying to figure out what's going on, mumbling about if Ginyu had something to do with this. Vegeta, however, was nowhere near as concerned about the logistics. If Trunks' story were true, then Black was his prey and his alone. He quickly beat Goku to the punch and dashed in front of Black, causing his eye to twitch as he is once again denied a fight.
Vegeta, my, this is a treat. Your key definitely isn't Yamcha's. Not that I would hold back if it were him. Don't die too quickly. You've got a lot to pay for.
Elated by the prospect, Black rockets forward with a flying knee which slams right into Vegeta's nose. But the Saiyan Prince shows no reaction, shocking Black, who upon landing on the ground, quickly jumps back, creating distance, and begins to power up. He thinks to himself that Vegeta must be far stronger than he thought, and flashes with golden light as his ki howls. He assumes the Super Saiyan form, but Vegeta shows that he is not impressed in the slightest. Back to it, Black charges in with a Superman punch, which Vegeta ducks, countering with an uppercut to the chin. Black is pushed back, going into a flurry of jabs and crosses, and Vegeta bobs and weaves with each blow, taking care to powerfully counter every other shot. He works the body and sends shockwaves with each blow of his crushing fist. In pain and enraged, Black gets out of Vegeta's range for a bit and throws a vicious roundhouse, but Vegeta moves to his blind spot and lands a devastating cross, sending Black stumbling back. By this point, there will be a very important development. Having finished his business with Mr. Satan, and since Trunks, then Goku, Beerus, Vegeta, Whis, and now something which felt oddly familiar, the real Yamcha had come to see what was happening, and the plot thickens.
Hey! Who stole my face?
Vegeta pauses to confirm that this really isn't Yamcha he's beating right now, while the badly battered Black glances at Yamcha and smirks sinisterly. Before the beatdown can continue, the force of time begins to pull Black back to where he had been when he used the ring, tearing him from Vegeta's grasp. Snarling at being dragged back, he tries to writhe and fight the force, but he is unable to break it. He finally eyes the time machine that Trunks had escaped in, and quickly tries to fire a small ki blast directly at it to destroy it, much to Trunks' horror, only for Krillin and his versatile Destructo Disc shield technique to deflect the blast. Black damns Krillin, and he disappears. More shocked than anyone right now, Yamcha frantically asks for answers. Whis tells him to calm himself and takes it upon himself to explain the entirety of the situation to him. Even more perplexed, the deities mentioned the iconic earring that Black was wearing, and its specific color. Beerus and Whis will hold an investigation into the connection between it and Black, as right now it was possible this could take place in their timeline as well. And this was an investigation that Krillin intended to join, and Beerus decides it'd be useful to bring Yamcha along as well. Those four leave to journey to Universe 10, and Bulma gets to work on fueling the time machine.
Well, I don't want
as with her
Yamcha,
current setup, it wouldn't take as long
sense.
to produce the fuel as her future counterpart. She orders Trunks to rest for the next 24 hours, but Vegeta suggests his son train. The family talk it out, and Vegeta actually has a bit of a heart-to-heart with Trunks right here now. Afterwards, Vegeta is very pleased with Trunks' response, but the only tell to that was a smile that he cracked before returning to his usual serious expression.
It stands now. That's I, Kakarot, and even Krillin are more than enough to take on Black, even as insurance policies. There is no reason for us to face him.
By the time Yamcha and the others return from Universe 10 with more questions than answers, he is informed of the plan and questions why he has a bigger workload than the others, and the Saiyans all give him an answer.
Because if someone were to use my face, I'd be damn sure to find out why.
Vegeta scoffs, and everyone notices the power of Gohan arriving at Capsule Corp, still dressed in the clothes he wore for work. The other hybrid isn't too shocked to sense that Gohan is still extremely powerful, and his aura feels more matured yet still somewhat lighthearted. The boy that defeated Cell had grown and changed for the best, it seemed.
Yes, sir.
In celebration of the visit, Gohan offers to host Trunks for dinner since he never had the chance to meet his wife or daughter, which Trunks is actually very interested in. This is still a chance to see the life that Gohan deserves in their timeline, and this Gohan who now more than ever reminds him of his own, that he just has to see. Vegeta kinda senses this and backs off, turning on his heels. But he does offer to train with him before the departure to the future. With Vegeta in one of his moods, Goku laments that now he has nothing to do. Picking up on all this, Gohan realizes that no one has filled him in on what's going on, and decides that he's going to get it out of Trunks himself, and the two fly towards his home. After having pleasantries with Gohan's family members and being surprised that he married into the Satan family, this visit is very much the same as the anime adaptation portrayed, except Gohan, in service of his curiosity, would try to convince Trunks to have a bit of a place bar, as it was something that Baby Pan really got a kick out of. Trunks would insist that he actually did have to go because he really wanted to take his father up on the offer to train, but Gohan uses sweet sentiments against him. The baby girl babbled at the warrior from the future, and the name got Trunks blushing like mad. He reluctantly agrees and smiles, and Gohan and Pan dance around a bit. Soon he and Gohan face off a good few feet away from Mr. Satan, who would sit and watch her with his granddaughter, and explain to her all the amazing training he could give her when she got older. Gohan then uses his watch made by Bulma and morphs into the Great Saiyan Man, with poses and voices included, causing Pan to cheer. Trunks sweat drops, but when he hears Gohan speak low so only he and Trunks could hear, he is actually very caught off guard. He's shocked at the change in attitude, but he ends up having to block, as Gohan had closed the gap between them with his fist poised to punch a hole in Trunks. He apologizes, but asks Trunks to go all out. He then shocks him further by backflipping in a familiar form and firing off a one-handed ki blast towards him. Finally realizing that Gohan isn't playing around and he really is even stronger than he thought, Trunks powers up into Super Saiyan and slices clean through the attack, only for a shadow to appear above him, and he just barely blocks as Gohan attempts to stomp him into the ground. Thanks to his reflexes, Gohan lands on the flat of the blade braced by Trunks' other arm. Gohan is pretty impressed and he praises Trunks, but he tells him that he knows he has to have more than that before laying his head down. In the next moment, his helmet shot off, bouncing off of Trunks' forehead. The swordsman nursed the new bump on his forehead and asked Gohan what the hell he was doing, but he was silenced as he recognized the red glow now around Gohan and his spiky red hair. He'd only seen this once before, but the presence he'd felt and the disappearance of Gohan's ki was still scary to him. Gohan explains that they had finally discovered what this form truly was, and reminds Trunks to give him everything he has. The hero from the future nods slowly, and he shows Gohan his own version of the Super Saiyan 2 transformation, which Gohan had also mastered. After assuming it, he feels pride at Gohan's smile of approval, and he lost himself in having fun in the spar for the first time in many years. Meanwhile, back at Capsule Corp, and sensing Trunks and Gohan's ki, Vegeta would go and retrieve the kid version of Trunks, and proceed to order him to follow him before taking off towards Gohan's residence. They stop high above the air and look down to see huge yellow and red keys crashing and blowing a fierce wind around the entire area of the house, while Mr. Satan held onto a tree for dear life and Pan sat cradled in his arms, cheering at the chaotic and awesome battle. Vegeta speaks to the present version of his son and tells him to look upon his future counterpart. He explains to Kid Trunks the difference between their timelines, and more importantly, the fact that this is something that Trunks is capable of, and shouldn't squander by slacking on training. He really tries to drive home to Trunks that there are some limits that being naturally talented won't let you break. The young hybrid was in awe as he watched a version of himself taking on the godly power of Gohan and not doing bad at all. It was an impressive feat, and one he never really felt that he wanted to achieve until now. Excitedly, he looked at Vegeta and asked if they could please start to train together again. Back in the spar, Trunks is realizing that Gohan is still holding back, and he pushes him to strive harder and harder. Truly enjoying this, he begins to lose himself in the single-minded attempt to best his friend, and Gohan really appreciates this. But sadly, Gohan's alarm for the 10-minute round goes off. He then thanks Trunks for the spar and apologizes for deceiving him. This causes Trunks to want to tell him everything. The two would float in the air for a while longer as Gohan is filled in. But then, interrupting Trunks' story, a small attacker barrels into Gohan's chest and unleashes a barrage of high-power punches accompanied by gleeful laughter. Gohan, unprepared, is winded and sent careening into the ground as he, Trunks, and Mr. Satan's eyes bulge out in surprise, seeing Pan's mighty aura flared as she cheers at emulating her father.
Boy,
everyone is shocked, not having
no.
been aware just how powerful Pan is. After calming her down and saying their goodbyes, Trunks will return home to Capsule Corp, very happy to have taken the chance to meet Gohan's family and test his power against him. Part of him really wanted to ask him to tag along to the future tomorrow, but he truly did want to try for himself one last time and didn't want to pull Gohan into a dangerous situation, even though he has kept up his training. Vegeta would be the only one awake once Trunks returns home, and the two speak on the visit with Trunks mentioning Gohan's god form and even Pan's surprising power. Vegeta is interested in this and talks about Gohan's potential always being a mystery, and even informing Trunks that Pan might be the first child to have inherited God Ki. And he suggests that Trunks may have gotten in way more training than he thought he did, and suggests that he go and get some sleep. The next morning, Castle Court would be abuzz with most of the Z Fighters initially present,
10-minute spar.
but today, a new development takes place. Whis informs Goku and everyone that Grand Zeno was asking to see him. Remember, the Terminator story still took place in this timeline, even though only Gohan and Yamcha really fought, and regardless, and if Zeno arrives at all and talks about a cross-multiversal tournament, I don't see Goku not approaching him. Beerus stays at Capsule Corp and orders Goku and Whis to go and see what Zeno wants with the Supreme Kai's help. They can continue their investigation later. This now frees Krillin up and Vegeta asks what his plans are. He then suggests that the short Saiyan has nothing to do, he should come to Tien's with him and train with them, mentioning that the human had actually gotten much stronger and was wanting sparring partners to help teach his students. Today, Yamcha had brought his entire family along to see him off to the future, and told them that he'll return as soon as possible. Once again, Gohan's ki is felt approaching the residence, but this time when he arrives, he is in a combat gi. He explains that he had been thinking it over last night, and he really wants to be there to lend support to Trunks, to which Trunks happily accepts, and Yamcha complains about Trunks not being this excited when he joined him. He laughs nervously, and the three float up and squeeze into the cramped vehicle, now barely able to wave at everyone. The flight sequence starts, and they venture back into Trunks' timeline.
So
there,
Goku,
Yamcha finally lays eyes upon the horror which caused him to make the wish to become a Saiyan in the first place. He realized that this is the exact same city they just left, but in total ruin. Capturing the time machine, Trunks will go on to check back in on the remaining survivors. We even see future Yajirobe, who was pretty shocked to hear what happened to Yamcha in the other timeline. And like in both canons as well, Mai would be revealed to be alive. And yes, the separation and the fear of almost never seeing each other again still pushes the two to openly display their feelings, as virtually nothing in the timeline should reliably change them. And as for how she escapes Black, I'll leave that vague like both canons do. After this, the trio of Saiyans will get a good distance away from the survivors and power up to attract Black, who wastes absolutely no time in flying to them and perching high above them on a destroyed building. He greets them smugly and seems especially happy to see Yamcha.
I found you, faker! Hello, my contemptible duplicates.
Black's grin returned as he instantly leapt out to attack Yamcha, but he was stopped short when he had to catch Trunks' thrown sword, taking a page out of Gohan's book. Just after his weapon is caught, he slams his fist into the flat of it and flew forward as fast as he could, pushing Black back even more and transforming straight to his Master Super Saiyan 2 form to go all out from the start. As Black is driven back from the inertia, Trunks will regrip his weapon and execute his Shining Slash maneuver. While not able to cut Black, the high-speed attack overwhelmed him and gave Trunks some room to breathe before a slight movement of his palm let him land a powerful point-blank ki blast that sent Black flying into the ruins of a building. Trunks looks down in his body and feels more power inside him than before. Gohan notes that he noticed this when he and the others sparred against each other in their god forms the first time, and when they fought Beerus, and most recently with Tien. Battling opponents with God Ki was amazing training, and he honed his god form much farther than anyone else had so far. From the rubble, Black steps out and scowls while dusting himself off, only showing a small burn mark from where the blast had hit him.
Vegeta had been much more powerful than I'd ever thought possible. The absolutely excruciating pain he put me through, the utter humiliation and divine rage I felt in that moment, this genius body, and the Saiyan ability to power up from near fatal wounds. All this came together to show you Saiyans what true divine power is.
Refusing to give in, Trunks rushes back towards his opponent and desperately unleashes every physical attack he could, but every slash, punch, and kick was dodged or parried without issue. Finally, Black would counter by dodging to the side and unleashing a powerful kick that snapped Trunks' head back before the imposter allowed his other foot to leave the ground, and he spun to deliver a drop kick and floated before hitting the ground, just as Trunks is sitting into the same building he was, and the structure comes crashing down on him from the force. But he did not move afterwards. Gohan, concerned for his friend and knowing that he currently held the sensu beans they came equipped with, would rush over and begin to quickly dig through the rubble to find them. Black scoffs, unimpressed, and hones back in on Yamcha, who is now the only man to face him. The genuine article then declares that he'll be the one to truly punish Black. He then begins to power up, and blue light explodes outward, as Yamcha reveals the pinnacle of his power, and confidently gives Black a thumbs down. He then taunts Black, but the imposter is not shaken. Malevolent pink and dark purple energy flood out of Black, and he reveals what he calls Super Saiyan Rose. The power even caused Gohan to shudder as he finally lifted the largest chunk of rubble off of Trunks and rushed to give him one of the 3 sensu beans they had brought with them. Yamcha could also feel that Black's power had grown by a lot. Fear actually crept into his heart, and his confidence waned for a split second. It wasn't allowed to go further than that because of Black's next words. He asked Yamcha why he mentioned avenging the people of this timeline, but never his own family. The frown Yamcha wore immediately hardened to a harsh glare, and he asked Black what he just said. Clarifying, Black informs that he killed the family of the Yamcha that he took this body from. The mere thought of failing to protect his family, which he held so dear, causes a deep-seated rage within Yamcha to erupt out and increase the intensity of his flowing blue ki. The sound of his flaring sounded almost like the call of a wolf, as Yamcha's enraged Neo-Wolf Fang fist brought him clashing against the source of such anger, who responded by allowing his body to instinctively use the same technique, but with a twist from whoever was controlling the body. Dense claws of hardened ki formed around his hands, and it made every blow by Black more devastating, and the sheer battle speed had already picked up by a lot. As they fought in near-perfect mirror of each other at high speed, they moved back and forth through whoever's momentum used from the Wolf Fang fist. Before long, the sky was filled with streaks of pink and blue, and with every collision, the Saiyans exchanged blows. But this was something Yamcha couldn't keep up forever. Feeling each exchange more and more, he would come to realize one crucial thing. Although Black's variant was stronger, it had been evident that Black was still new to the technique, leaving himself open right before they'd clash. With this knowledge, Yamcha would take charge, bursting forward one last time, bringing both hands together to form the Wolf's Bite finishing blow, but with a twist. As his hands made contact with Black and began to blow him back from the force, he immediately charged up a God Ki-fueled Kamehameha and fired it point blank through Black's stomach. Wounded, the fake had fallen back to the earth, sporting a giant hole, barely clinging on to life. Yamcha finally collapsed as well, with his arms covered in gashes and blood. He couldn't even maintain blue anymore, but he fatally injured Black.
You're not even good enough to be my fake. Gohan! I'm done for today. Knock him out of the park so we can go home, would ya?
Gohan would comply and order Trunks to get Yamcha one of the sensu beans. Then, making his way towards the shuddering and bleeding Black, Gohan prepares to save the future. He comments how fascinating this experience was, and says that it's time to pay their debt. But strangely, a Kai would teleport directly above Black and order the mortals to step back. As this was a Kai, no one moved to interfere. Thinking he would finish him off, they are devastated when the deity who claimed himself as Zamasu went on to heal Black and further increase his power. And right about now, we'd have the full reveal of how Zamasu became Goku Black. Not much has really changed here. You still have a Zamasu who has sparred against Yamcha and probably seen him on God too, so he can still end up really respecting Saiyan power. Gohan then dams their situation, but tells Yamcha and Trunks they have to go in for one more round. Even though Yamcha is not at 100%, the two nod and power up, as Zamasu, who had just been revealed to be another Zamasu, sync up and launch forward. Obviously, Yamcha is their target, and he is forced to dive through them as Black and the Kai both make a horizontal slash at his chest and his waist. But the slick dodge is ruined, however, as Black's improved power allows him to react and catch Yamcha's ankle. He then slams him back and forces the scarred Saiyan to shift his head just to barely dodge Zamasu's slash at his face. Then sinking their own attack, Gohan and Trunks attempt to overwhelm Black together, both powering to their strongest state, and the three clash in different colors. But Zamasu would intervene by attacking Trunks with his powerful telekinesis, stalling him long enough to allow Zamasu the time to attack and send Gohan. Struggling against that unseen force, Trunks does his best to dodge as Zamasu slashes and slashes at the hybrid, and remember, this was telekinesis powerful enough to stop Goku for a while. Meanwhile, Yamcha recovers, and though still extremely tired and surely not able to assume his blue form again, he squeezes off the last of his power and attempts to help Gohan as a mere Super Saiyan. Back in his skirmish, Trunks finally picks apart the pattern of attack and finally breaks Zamasu's telekinetic hold to execute the same flip that Gohan had and quickly runs through the hand movements for the burning attack technique. This one coming out much more powerful and kinda like his finished Buster technique. being launched right at Zamasu as he charged at him and detonated the blazing hot technique right into his face on impact. Now down one opponent, the Hero of Time sinks a bit before attempting to launch out for the extra speed and allow the three heroes to gang up on Black and finally win this. Before he can, he feels a familiar sensation of telekinesis and soon a burning pain as the Keyblade shoots through his chest and just barely misses his lungs. His body have regenerated thanks to the second wish on the Super Dragon Balls. Zamasu would brag, and Trunks looks on as Yamcha finally runs out of steam, only to be slashed across the chest by Black and sent sprawling onto the ground, breathing heavily, as Gohan is forced onto the back foot by a Black Spirit Ball that finally lands and decimates the area around him, leaving it a burning hellscape, and a Gohan who had just barely survived through flooding his defense with energy, but now he was running low on it. Gritting his teeth in pain, Trunks refuses to go down either, and leans forward before ramming his skull as hard as he can into Zamasu's. This makes him lose his grip and slip back, and Trunks yells in pain as the blade of Ki leaves the wound. He stumbles, but rears a leg back and donkey kicks Zamasu before zooming over to his companions. With 2 sensus left, he reaches into his pocket and regrettably knows that he'll need a full sensu to deal with the wound he has now, while all 3 of them, especially Yamcha, are in desperate need of power. Chomping down on it and back to full, he rushes to Yamcha's aid to try and get him half of the sensu beam. However, he is nearly knocked out of the air by Black, if not for the interference of Gohan, attempting to block the blow for his friend. The 2 of them only make it easier for Black to send them both tumbling into a heap with Yamcha though, thanks to a powerful push kick that hits Gohan and takes out Trunks as well. Zamasu, also fully healed, returns to Black's side and snarls down at Trunks and the Saiyans. Still angry, he makes sure that the Saiyans know that they are below them. The 2 then agree that they have worn out their use, and to share the deed, they rise into the air to charge up their Holy Light Grenade technique. Our heroes are forced to stare up at their doom. And that's when Trunks notices Mai and Yajirobe, getting his attention by flashing light from a broken piece of glass. He understands that they're here to help, and he uses the solar flare as quickly as possible. The area fills up with light, and Black and Zamasu are caught off guard by it, and it blinds them. When they regain their vision, they are enraged to see their quarry gone, and they unleash the blast they had charged to punch the earth. Not extremely far away, and with all their ki dropped as far as possible, Trunks, in the best shape of all, splits the last sense between Gohan, who afterwards is in decent shape, and Yamcha, who afterwards is nowhere near. Always want to think things through. Gohan laments that this is gonna work, and reluctantly says that they need help. Trunks agrees and decides that he can send both the other Saiyans back to the present. But Gohan is not having this. He is not leaving Trunks alone again. Taking the reins, he decides that Yamcha will go. He's sorry, but he's just no good in this situation. They need the cavalry, and they need a way to deal with that Zamasu guy. Barely able to talk still, Yamcha's Saiyan pride erupts, but he can't put up any real showing of dismay right now. He really tries to argue with Gohan and tell him that he's the oldest. He should be responsible. He's not letting 2 men he's known since they were boys throw their lives away so he could be a coward again, and unfortunately for his ego, he was the only one to hear his complaints. Gohan and Trunks load the still injured Saiyan into the time machine and set it to depart. They order Yajirobe and Mai to get a head start on their getaway and accompany the time machine up into the air in case Black and Zamasu appear. With the sky clear of enemies, Yamcha is forced to tuck his tail between his legs and pray that his own failings don't get his friends killed while they're trapped in the future. And this, Plus Ultra fam, is where we leave our story off for right now.
Damn. Shout out to Plush for this video. This is fire. This is definitely a fire chapter. Yamcha Black, I guess. That's fire, I guess. We will see. We'll see how they finish off Yamcha Black, man. I can't wait to see it. Make sure to check out the last chapter right here. Check out another video you might like right here. And I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.